Letter
We're
was all
live,
good?
by the way, Greg.
Cool.
Keep in mind.
Hello, everyone. Anyone's out
I don't know
there?
if anyone's, we just went live. I don't know if anyone joined yet.
We're like YouTubers now.
Yeah, I know, that's weird. Yeah, was the letter was all
We're live,
good?
by the way.
Okay.
I had to mute it because it was just me. Like I could hear myself talking, and it
That was a big delay. I heard myself. It's like 2 minutes ago.
There is a big delay. No one's on it right now, though.
Cool.
So if someone goes on it, then you can be like, oh, we're just waiting to start.
Okay. Got it.
And as always, I'm gonna put questions if there are any in the comment section, like of our chat on Zoom.
Got it. Yeah. And then I think we can start right at 11.
Okay.
And then just, or 11:05.
The link can it be shared on the Fridays for Future Instagram?
Sophie can. So there's or we'll talk about it later. We can just put the link on the doc, and then it can be added to the YouTube chat.
Okay, I think we're good to start now. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. My name is Amina. I'm 19 years old, and I'm one of the organizers in Fridays for Future Toronto. And one of my jobs is also helping out with the weekly strikes here. And on to.
Hello, my name is Greg. I'm 18 and I'm an organizer with Fridays for Future, and I also like to help around with the weekly strikes whenever I can.
Yeah, you can. So if you want to get involved, you can definitely email Fridays for Future Toronto or go onto our Instagram. It has a bunch of links for post-secondary, high school students, and you can go on either one of them if you're not in school. And we'll be having intake calls today actually, and then for post-secondary students, it's just a rolling call. It just keeps going. So put your name down, and people will reach out. So Yeah. So on to Greg. What's the theme this week?
All right, thanks, Amina. So the theme this week is Ontario's expansion with gas. So last week we mentioned this petition about from Ontario Clean Air Alliance that is in direct opposition of this new pipeline that Enbridge Gas wants to build through Hamilton and the ecologically important Beverly Swamp. So basically, Enbridge Gas wants to build this big 28 to 30 meter wide pipeline, which is around 8 to 9, like an 8 to 9 lane like highway, which is really absurd. And it'll be built through the northern part of Hamilton City and through the Beverly Swamp, which is one of Ontario's like most important wetlands, and that's something we are we need very necessary. It has 3 water reservoirs on it that we're pretty dependent on. And so this pipeline does not really benefit Ontario people, people who live in Ontario. Mainly benefits Enbridge Gas and their customers in America, and it's going to help increase our pollution by up to 300% in 2025 and 400% in 2050, which is absolutely insane, as we should be focusing on minimizing our greenhouse gas pollution, because by 2025, if we're increasing our greenhouse gas pollution by 300%, we're probably just going to be ruining the world faster than any other place, like globally. So this strike, we're going to be focusing on that issue, what you as a person can do to help individually, and we're going to be doing a live call to an MP's office, and then providing more information on alternative solutions instead of making a pipeline. So reasons or ways we can be more energy efficient and cost efficient and pollute less.
Yeah. I'm gonna thank you for that, Greg. I'm going to do a very important land and online space acknowledgement. We wish to acknowledge that this land on which we're holding an online rally for thousands of years has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. And today this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're very grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. We also acknowledge the privilege of online space that we have and the importance of using it to uplift voices and recognize the struggles that continue today of Indigenous people and marginalized people in Turtle Island. I think so. Some recent issues have definitely come up within Indigenous communities with regards to how differently I guess inaccessibility and all over North America. So if we look to the south of us, we have the US, and there was a recently body bags were sent to a native reserve instead of when they asked for COVID supplies, instead of actual things that would help them. And that's absolutely devastating. And it kind of shows how we still so much work needs to be done. And it's reminiscent of what happened in Manitoba during the SARS outbreak. So I think it's always important to keep on standing up as much as you can. If you can write to your MP, if you can share it on social media, just to keep the pressure and just say we people are very worried and we're holding you accountable to this. So keep this in mind. What's Wet'en? They're still building CGL pipelines right now, and man camps are being set up, and those are absolutely not essential. So those are things to keep in mind and really acknowledge the privilege we have and how we can do better. And I guess from here we can kind of go on to what's more of our theme today. And Greg, you can from here.
Thank you. I also I didn't know about the body bag thing. That's pretty messed up. I really didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So basically, the Ford government is going to be investing more into fossil fuels. They're planning on not using our nuclear reactors. They're planning on just using more coal and fossil fuel and oil, fracked gas, all that bad stuff. to power our increasingly more demanding energy needs. And so basically, they're working with Enbridge Gas to create a pipeline that will import fracked gas, which is one of the scientifically worst energies for the environment. Fracked gas, the way they get it is destructive. The way it's used is destructive. Everything about it is destructive in general. So they want to import fracked gas from Pennsylvania to New England states like Maine and New York for their utilities. And this will be because New England states have recently been banning implementing pipelines nearby all around them. And so Enbridge has come to Ontario, Canada, where they know that the Ford government is really all about fossil fuels right now. And so they're going to try to set up this pipeline, which actually will be for them an economic, it's not a good investment. They actually lose money with it, but they're doing it mainly to subsidize the pipeline so they don't have to pay too much for it in America. So they're just going to use us as like a little route for their fracked gas. And the largest thing with this is that the pipeline will be going through the Beverly Swamp, which is about 5,600 acres of wetlands that are very important. And only 2,300 of those acres are actually owned by a conservation authority. But it is one of the largest natural swamps in southern Ontario. And we need to really keep it together because we don't have Ontario, I think, has around 11% of the world's wetlands, and we've been draining wetlands for really, really quickly, way too much. They're not going to be able to recover if we continue at this rate. And the pipeline is something that will destroy this one of honestly the world's few really large wetlands left much quicker than we should be. Oh, also, this will raise Canadian gas rates by 120 million, as it says that that's the price that Ontario needs to pay for the pipeline and the natural gas. To me, it doesn't really make much sense, but whatever.
Yeah, part of Enbridge's proposal is that they're going to put them they're going to charge us essentially, which is what you said, to pay for that. So that extra 120 million, it's because it's not it's not possible, it's not feasible unless most of the expenses are put on the consumers, which goes to a lot of issues of how unaffordable energy is becoming or will become for so many people. And then Anne also, so hello Anne, mentioned that the other issue is that Ontario could buy clean renewable energy, so hydropower from Quebec, and that would be much cheaper, that infrastructure. We totally agree here. And we've actually been reading the Ontario the climate report, and that's part of the solutions that they were talking about, and we'll be talking about it now because now it's what solutions do we have at hand. But if we talk about how many gas plants we have in Ontario, currently we have 5. So it's just something to think about, and it's something we can transition away from, most definitely. So there is no need for increased environment and climate damaging pollution. This only puts us at risk. This only puts vulnerable people at risk, and it creates a future that's very unstable. And if we kind of reflect on the instability that the COVID-19 crisis has created, it tells us that things that governments are not prepared for, things that might seem as unprecedented, but they're repeatedly warned of, it's very important to be prepared for it, or else we all get stuck in a very big mess and a lot of people get harmed along the way. And that really goes to the climate crisis as well. So something we need to keep on saying, we need to be more prepared. We are seeing the consequences now. So On a lighter note, what are the solutions? So we could totally keep our lights on without increasing greenhouse gas emissions. So one of the recommended or some things we could do is instead of spending 204 million to increase fact gas imports and greenhouse pollution, they could invest money into energy efficiency programs to reduce customers' gas bills and pollution, and it'll be better for them as a corporation, as an organization. Um, it can reduce customer energy bills through the investment from 963 million to 3.4 billion. Look at that. So instead of going up 120 million, you can actually reduce customer bills and you'll be more efficient. Isn't that great? And then, as Anne said, we can also import low-cost water power from Quebec to avoid the increased output from our gas plants. Quebec's Premier, Francois Legault, has repeatedly offered to sell Ontario power at a bargain rate under a long-term contract. We already have a solution, an opportunity before us, and we can help other provinces along the way. And by investing in energy efficiency and importing renewable electricity from Quebec, we can lower our electricity and gas bills and lower greenhouse gases while moving Ontario to a renewable energy future. That in itself will provide a lot of jobs, the transition towards there. If you also look at solar power, although there's a lot going on about how expensive it is or how it's not economic, there was a documentary talking about like all sorts of things wrong with it. Solar power has become drastically cheaper over the last few years. Even the Alberta government recently invested more in it and in wind because of how cheap it's becoming. I think it was like 3.4 cents for kWh. But and this year was 4.7, but it's supposed to be much cheaper than fossil fuel electricity by 2050. And if we're planning on having some long-term, if we're trying to have our economy be sustainable long-term, it's really important that we invest in these. And yes, the green hearts. We will be talking about Mother's Day green hearts towards the end. But there will be some really cool initiatives going on. So we'll talk about it more towards the end. But thank you, Anne, for that. Yeah. And then we also have a report that people can check out. They'll be posted. So I guess one question now is, what are some actions we can do today?
Okay, so actions you can do. An easy one is posting on your social media with like a hashtag online climate strike, or I don't know, we could even make a hashtag like not my pipeline, something like that, because well, I don't think we really want this pipeline. I don't think many people asked for this pipeline, really. You could write a letter to your MP or the environment minister or anyone in the government that is like would be in charge of this type of like decision. The environment minister is actually Jeff Urich, and you can contact him at jeff.urich@pc.ola.org. We'll link that, and we'll also link a sample letter that you could send to your minister or MP. Well, the sample letter is more directed towards the minister, Jeff Urich, but we can send that there too. You can also call your MP's office and you can contact them, try to keep a good report with them because they are there to, serve the public. They're not these like untouchable figures that you can't really contact or talk to. They're meant for us to have a discussion and discourse with them. So those are just a few things that you can do. Also, one of the things would be to just talk with your family members and friends about what's going on.
Yeah. So we're going to do a call. We could do it together. Do you have the letter up on the document, or is it?
I don't have it up on the document, but I can.
The link. I think I have it open.
That's not the general version. Sorry, guys, 1 second. I have the link open and I put it right there.
So I will be calling 416-314-6790. You can see it's a bit too bright. I think now.
Yeah, you can see that.
So on speaker. Let's see. It's very easy to do. You could do it right now with me. Or write an email if that's more comfortable for you.
Some people don't like phone calls, so
Yeah,
it's fair. I'm gonna be calling them on silent.
sounds good.
Hello, if reached Eva's voicemail, please leave your message. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amina. I'm a very concerned resident of Ontario. So hello, Jeff Urick, or Mr. Jeff Urick. I'm a youth and I'm very concerned about the investments in fossil fuel energy that Ontario is doing and how much they're moving away from green, sustainable energy and how much that's going to put the economy for my future at risk and create a very unstable job market and also put more costs on the consumer, on the residents, on people of Ontario who can't really afford electricity, especially with rates going up and fossil fuel electricity being less reliable. So as Ontario's current Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, you're charged by the nature of your position to really be invested in the protection and conservation of our environment.
Time's up. You've hit the maximum time for your recording. If you're happy with your message, hit 1. To listen to your message, hit 2. To erase it and record again, hit 3.
So I kind of went on. I didn't know there was a time limit, but that's something good to know. I think Greg's doing his message right now, but I will be re-recording it and having an actual ending to it and timing it well. And I think that's something you can learn. I guess that's something we learned today. So yeah, I think we'll have a general outline maybe posted on our social media. And it's something very easy to do. And I think it's totally okay to send it, like, as long as your main points are there, but I guess who you are, where you live, to like kind of make that connection, why you're concerned, what you're concerned about, and like having it be polite and nice and say, I hope you're able to take action on this because it's really important to a lot of the residents of Ontario. Yeah. Greg, how was your call?
Well, I went to voicemail too, but basically I said mainly the same thing that you did. I was concerned Ontario residents, and that I was concerned about this pipeline because of like the ecological damage and the economic damage it can cause. And I also mentioned to them how the pipeline goes against what the Ford government said they would do for the environment. Like in the direct environment plan, they said that they're going to be improving the resilience of natural ecosystems or supporting conservation and environmental planning. None of the pipeline doesn't do that. The pipeline does not support conservation or environmental planning, and it does not improve the resilience of any natural ecosystems. It just degrades them completely. So this pipeline, if it goes through, it will be in direct contradiction with what they said. So I talked to them about that as well, or I mentioned that.
Yeah. And then a question for people to think about, just in general, is how do we use, let's say, the pipeline, or how do we use things happening around the world to kind of rethink our relationship with the planet or to remake our relationship with the planet? And it's just like a question you can comment your answer to if you have an answer, or it's something you can reflect throughout the day, or it could be a conversation starter, like how do we rethink our relationship with, let's say, your backyard, or if you see a flower, right? Or how likely you are to pick that flower. So there's so many ways to do this, but something to reflect about. How do we use this to rethink our relationship with the planet? But yeah. So, Greg, what are some teach-ins that Fridays for Future Toronto is holding?
Okay, so on the 18th of May, which is a Monday, I believe, we will be holding a teach-in about climate and labor. So that is labor in the sense of labor unions and all the things that involves. So that one will be hosted by our very own Kendall, and I think we got some guest speakers on that as well. I don't specifically know which guest speakers. And then next week after that, on the 25th, which is also Monday, there will be a teach-in about climate change and science. So I think that's pretty much the science behind climate change and the science behind like what's actually happening, because a lot of people are kind of confused and up in the air about what climate change actually is and how it actually damages us. And then that one will be hosted by Mallory, also from our organization, and there will be some guest speakers there too. And the last teach-in that we currently have planned is for June 1st, also a Monday, and that's about climate change and our healthcare systems, like globally, but we're specifically focusing on Canada. That one's going to be talking mainly about how climate change will greatly affect and cost us on our healthcare system, because it's going to exacerbate current issues with people who have asthma, respiratory issues, and even like the elderly. If you'd like to know more about it, June 1st. I will be hosting that one, and we will have some guest speakers there that are like medical, like doctors, things like that. So yeah, if anyone's interested in those topics, check them out. The 18th is the labor one. The 25th is science and climate, and the 1st of June is healthcare and climate. So that's all the teach-ins we currently have. How about you, Amina? Anything going on?
Well, those sound like some really cool teach-ins, and they're much more collaborative than our weekly strikes here, where we're just informing you and doing actions. And they're also movie nights tomorrow, so you can join in, and I'm sure the link is on our Instagram. And there are a couple instructions. It's like 30 minutes before, and they're watching There's Something in the Water at 7 p.m. So that as well. Yeah, and I think that will be so fun. So you can tune in tomorrow. If you have something else to do, we can also double task and do that at the same time. And yeah, and that's so cool. The webinar is happening as well. So it's more collaborative, and you can speak up and you can talk about your position or your interest and ask questions. And I think that'll be very important, and for us as a community to develop a deeper understanding. There's also something really cool going on that Anne mentioned, and it's called the Green Recovery Mother's Day Initiative, where people are mailing a heart or putting a heart up outside of their MP's office, of course, whilst respecting social distancing. So if no one's out and about, you can quickly go put one on and hop back, or like quickly go back home. So you can mail a heart to your MP in honor of your mother or your guardian or caregiver, or just in general, or just spread the word. So their blurb is, this Mother's Day, send a green heart to your MP and ask them to support a green and just recovery for all. We have to make this the turning point on the climate crisis. Speak from your heart, tell them you want a safe and healthy future for your children. Stand in solidarity with mothers and caregivers on the front line of the COVID-19 crisis, with mothers facing economic uncertainty or any form of oppression, and with Indigenous mothers fighting to protect their children, their land in the face of injustice. So let's flood Ottawa with green hearts. Anyone can participate. You can also participate in the honor of mothers or parents or caregivers or guardians that you've seen, or just people you really admire. And there's also a link that will be posted, which is their Facebook event. And I guess one last question that we kind of addressed at the top, how can people join Fridays for Future Toronto? You can email us or, yeah,
You want me to talk about
sure.
Okay, so we got a couple ways that you can join Fridays for Future Toronto. 1 second, I just got to pull up the email because I can never remember it on exactly. So we do have an email, which is Fridays for, like the number, future TO at gmail.com. We'll also put that in the link in the chat. So you can email us saying like why you want to join, who you are, and what you want to do, and we'll respond to you as quick as we can. And we can also give you there'll be a link to like intake forms, which means you just basically, it's like a bit of like a survey, and you like kind of see what you're interested in and what we can do with you in the organization, or what you can do for us. You can also DM our social media accounts. Any like our main account, Fridays for Future Toronto. Is that just the Instagram?
Fridays
Yeah,
for
Fridays for
Future TO.
Future TO.
Yeah.
Not Toronto. TO. Fridays for Future TO. You can go to our Instagram, DM us, or even like our Twitter or Facebook, any other social media we have. They should all be the same.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think we really have any other ways of contacting. We don't have like a.
I think that addresses it really well. But just to conclude off here, overall, remember that these solutions, the renewable energy solutions, the alternative solutions, are about making our future as easy as possible and to be as prepared as possible. It is very important to continue putting pressure on our governments to do better and to make the right decisions. And we know it can feel difficult, especially if you're feeling down or if you haven't seen people much, to like do an action or write a letter. But through these small actions, we can bring about change. So thank you very much from me and Greg for
Thank
tuning
you.
and join us next week for a discussion between a very special youth activist from Fridays for Future Toronto and an organizer from Jawdown Solutions Toronto. And a shout out to a very important member, Sophie, who has been helping organize all the weekly strikes.
Thank you, Sophie.
The best. But yeah, we're going off here. So
Okay.
bye.
Bye. Have a good day.